Okay, today we're introducing David Pereira on how to drive value when everyone else distracts you. So David is he he's known for everything product, right? That's our go-to. Anything. He's written so many blog articles. He has so much knowledge out there in the product space. But most recently, he has published the Untrapping Product Teams book, and I am about 2/3 of the way through, and I can't recommend this book enough. It's really well, as Jim Jim Highsmith, who really, he's the author actually, and he's an author, he's a storyteller, but he's also co-author of the Agile Manifesto. So you may recognize that name, Jim Highsmith, and he actually wrote a preface to, or not a preface, but he wrote a foreword in this in David's book. And I love it that he talks about, this book contains it's just a wealth of practical, usable ideas in the form of narratives, checklists, outstanding questions, solid principles. But anyway, more I could go on about this book, but I would say it's not just for, I will echo what Jim said in his preface, that this book is not just for product owners, product managers. This book is for anybody that's in the product space, including developers and business analysts and quality techs and Scrum Masters. This book is really useful and really applicable for anybody, executives even. So I can't highly recommend this book enough. It's very, very well done. And so we're looking forward to hearing from David today. And I'm going to turn the floor over to him because you all came here to hear him, not me. So I'm going to stop sharing here and welcome, David.
Thank
Welcome to
you.
the universe.
Great. So, hi everyone. Hope you're having a good day. And today we're going to talk about a few things here. And when you look at this book here, this book is a book about hope because big part of my career, I thought I didn't know how to do product management. I changed to different companies and I realized I start seeing the same problem all over the place. And eventually I decided to write a book that would equip normal people, like most of us, who work for normal companies and are trying to do something great. So I'm going to talk today particularly about a common thing that happens, few traps, that there will be some things related to the book content, but I will try sharing stories with you. The stories help more. So today we're going to explore this guy here, the backlog. So I'm going to give you some ideas. How can you drive value when everyone distracts you? I have been playing this game for 15 years now. And what I realize is no matter where you are, there will be distractions. What does good look like? What does success look like? And then we end up in a situation we are doing many things that don't help us create value, but for sure get us distracted. And then we don't have energy to create value. And let's start this conversation by looking at what happens in theory, because we all read nice blog posts, we read many things, and what happens in reality. Because the truth is, we need to deal with reality, as harsh as it can be. But first, let's understand the promised land. I will tell you this is a very beautiful one, and if you're there, great. I will share these stories from perspective of a product manager, but doesn't matter, you're going to relate to that if you work with digital products. So the very first thing is, if you're a product manager, it's expected that you can make decisions. So you are the decision maker. You can select what to do, what not to do. And you also are going to craft the product vision. Where do you want to land and inspire people to embark with you on this mission? And how do you get there? That is the product strategy. You set the strategy, you decide who you serve, your target audience. How do you play this game? What success looks like? You set goals. And within that, you can uncover ideas worth pursuing. And pay very close attention here to the word worth pursuing. Not all ideas are the same. Some will just distract you and then you drop them on the way. How do you do that? You partner with business and then you align what business can support and you figure out how customers will benefit from that. And to ensure that you have flexibility, of course, you're going to craft outcome-oriented roadmaps. You may not know what to deliver, but you know what to achieve, what makes sense. That is the outcome. And to ensure you are reaching the desired outcome, you are always talking to customers, obviously, right? So they are going to use the product, they benefit from that. And ultimately, what you do is maximize value for the business and the customer. That is the promised land. I have seen this partly. What I have seen most of the time is something a little bit different. Let's look at this, what it looks like. I call this as the harsh reality. And the product manager is not actually a decision maker, probably a decision follower. So someone is going to call the shot. Doesn't matter if you like or not, you're going to have to follow that. Product vision, if you're lucky, you have something. There's a big chance you don't have a product vision and you are unempowered to craft that. What about strategy? Well, if it's available, you follow it, or you just follow whatever the hippo says, right? The highest paid person opinion. That's the strategy. And when it comes to ideas worth pursuing, I call it bets. Bet on features and hope for the best. And why do I say here hope for the best? Because the features are prioritized up front and then you have to deliver on that. And then if the feature is right, you're going to deliver value. And instead of partnering with business, the objective is to please the business. And then you're safe. What about roadmaps? Of course, the roadmap will be a big list of features you have to deliver, output, not outcome. And instead of frequently talking to customers, there's a frequent exchange with business people. And as a result, instead of maximizing value for both sides, business and customers, it is about creating features nobody uses. That is a harsh reality. And unfortunately, this is present in more places than I would like to. And the truth is, if you are a part of that, we need to create value. That is what we need to do. And the question is, how? And that's what I'm going to share some perspectives with you here today. If you look here at the summary of everything I said, the promised land, it is all about maximizing value and helping the business thrive. The harsh reality, we end up focusing on the wrong things. That is what I said about how can you drive value when almost everyone distracts you. The very first one here is quite interesting if you are there. This truly exists, but it's the world of a few product managers. And when you are part of that, creating value is not that hard because you do have the elements in place. So you remain flexible, you remain able to inspect and adapt and continuously correct course of action. But if you are on the second part, that is something challenging. And when you know how to move from this scenario to driving value, then you stand out. So how do we do that? First thing is about understanding what is happening in your scenario. Not everything is going to be the way you would like to, and that's okay. So the question is, when you find something you don't like, what do? You can always complain and nothing's going to happen, or you can take action. It's kind of first understand the cards you have at your hand so you make the best move possible. So you can maybe win cards you don't have. The other option would be look at the cards you don't have and then complain that you don't have those cards. So you're not going to play the game. You just fold. Nothing happens. You lose anyway. So the best way is understanding. So let's look at the different scenarios here and compare the product manager versus a backlog manager. And this will help us see what leads to value creation and what distracts when. And now there's one thing quite interesting. I posted about the difference between product manager and backlog manager several times. And I just want to ensure I don't create more confusion here. Backlog manager is bad, it's not a position. And some people say we need both. We don't need both. We need someone who has end-to-end responsibility, creating value. In some places, this person is going to be called product manager, product lead, or whatever you decide to call it. But backlog manager is a demotion of this role. If you are spending more than 2 days managing your backlog, something is off. And that's what we're going to talk later here. And the very first question when we look at this is a very important question. What is the difference between a product manager and the product owner? I know if you ask 10 people, you may get 10 different answers. And if you ask 10 people from the same company, you still may get 10 different answers. But I want to ensure we get on the same page on this one, because that is very important for us to escape from the problems. Looking at this, my slide just contributed to one thing, but let's be clear. There is a definition that says like this. The product manager takes care of the strategy and the product owner takes care of the execution. That was my understanding for a while. And I was a product owner in the beginning of my career. I was truly taking care of the execution. And if you look at some frameworks, like there is one framework called SAFe, which I call as the undercover waterfall agent. Sorry if there are some SAFe practitioners here, but SAFe does define the product manager as the responsible for identifying what is the right thing to do, and the product owner for doing the thing right. I don't perceive this as the best definition. I worked in this scenario already. And the problem of this scenario is we're going to have limited responsibility. The best way is to go like this. Product manager will go from strategy to execution, and the product owner is a role. It doesn't matter the framework you are working with. The product owner was a role inside Scrum. Some companies don't work with Scrum, but they still have product owners. Some companies do work with Scrum, but then they have product owner and product manager. The thing is, the product owner now is called an accountability, but the best person to take this accountability is often the product manager. And the key is to have end-to-end responsibility. Because if you don't have end-to-end responsibility, it will be very hard. Let's say the execution goes wrong. Then the product manager is going to blame the product owner. And the product owner is going to blame back, saying, well, maybe the decision was just wrong on the strategy to begin with. It should be one person. The key is to have a digestible responsibility so we can ensure we create value. If we have the two roles, there's a chance we will drive too much attention to the execution. And there will be a question asked all the time. How can we accelerate delivery? This question has value in it, but I don't think it's the best question to ask. Because accelerating delivery and creating more things that people don't need is not the right way of creating products. A better question is, how fast can we drop bad ideas? And this will only be possible if there is one person having end-to-end responsibility. Now, let's compare a few things here. This is what you want to see. Now let's look at the product manager versus backlog manager so we can go beyond backlog management. Key things here. When we look at product managers, the objective is to focus on uncovering opportunities that create value. This is what I would call as the value drivers, something that will ensure that will be beneficial for the business and for the customer somehow. And when we fall prey to the backlog, the focus is on writing highly detailed backlog items. And how do you know you're writing detailed backlog items? If your software engineers can implement something without talking to you, you went way beyond what is necessary. Backlog items should provide the context. It is not about providing all the details. I did this thing of writing detailed backlog items, but I changed, and I will tell you how. Let's just give one example before. If you look at the backlog manager user story, it will be something like that. The backlog manager will write the user story and will put the acceptance criteria before even talking to anyone from the team. And then the team will start estimating the solution. If you look here, the solution is already clear. As a customer, I want to have Google sign-in, so I don't have to create additional password. Acceptance criteria is defined, and the only thing you need to do is to implement. Then the software engineer is not going to be a software engineer anymore. They're going to be coders. They code whatever they are asked to. But when you look at the product manager backlog item, the context, look at this, 80% sign-up drop. After 10 interviews, we understood customers find our sign-up process cumbersome and refuse to sign up before using our tool. Opportunity, reduce sign-up friction. Assumption, if we let customers use the platform before signing up, they will end up increasing sign-up rates. If you look at this, you can solve it in multiple ways. You can run tests and understand what would be a good idea. Maybe it is a Google sign-in. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually letting customers use the product without having any sign up at all. This case here, you bring the context, you bring the opportunity, and then you explore a solution. That is a more collaborative way. And I told you that I used to write many user stories the first way here, as I put in red. When I was working for a startup, we were still in the seed investment. We were quite small back then, but then we proved there was market fit and we got a Series A investment. So we were growing to 3 teams. I was responsible for 1 team. We were 8 in total, and we would go to 25. And then it turned out that the CEO decided I would be still the only product owner back then. And I was panicking. I remember when a software engineer came to me and said, "Hey, how are you coping with that?" I said, "I don't know. Probably I cannot write this amount of user stories for this amount of people. It is going to be crazy." And he said, "Yeah, because for a while you have been feeding us. So you feed the beast. You ensure we have work to do and we deliver whatever you tell us." And I had to swallow that for a bit because he was right. And then I asked, "What should I do instead?" He said, "Instead of feeding us, you should point where you want us to land, which problem we should solve, and why that matters, and let us figure that out." So I realized that I was not empowering the team, so I had to change something. So I started writing differently. I started being more collaborative instead of being coordinative. Now let's look at another example here. How do you measure success? Product managers will only care about the outcome. Backlog managers will do everything to ship features faster, and they will be very proud when velocity is increased because, you show that you can deliver faster. Delivering faster doesn't mean creating more value. More features does not mean more value. The key is what is the impact created by the features you delivered. I was promoted once because I managed to increase the velocity of the team in 6 months by 30%. And stakeholders love that. And short term, everyone likes if you drive more output. But in the medium to long term, nobody will remember the amount of features you delivered. They will only remember the result you created. So that's the reason you need to understand what you are changing. And that means some features you need to remove from the product. If they don't drive value, they are a distraction. So they would be better out of the product. And now comes something interesting. The relationship with stakeholders. Here I'm particularly talking about business stakeholders. Let me be very clear with you. Unless you are creating an internal product, Stakeholders are not your customers, but they are also not your enemies. They are your partners. Product managers will ensure they build partnerships with business people. And sometimes there will be some conflicts, but they will be fine with that. And backlog managers will do one thing that I did in the past. We'll try to please everyone, and you will end up pleasing no one. So there are different strategies to do that. You do a bit of everything for everyone, and you hope for the best. It doesn't work. As I said, again, the short term, everyone is happy because you're doing a little bit of everything. But in the medium term, you don't create real results. And the more things you put in parallel, the less value you can create. One of the principles I put in the book is we need to learn how to start finishing and stop starting. It is not about paralyzing work because that's not prioritization. Prioritization means focusing on one thing at a time. Get it done, move to the next. If you don't get it done, it's because you dropped the idea. That's okay. Some ideas deserve to be dropped. But when it comes to partnership with stakeholders, it's about doing it together. It is very unlikely a product manager knows it all. So you do need to uncover what is necessary for the business and get support from them. And one tip I got from Martin Dauman is you need to build the relationship even before you need it. Because if you have to start building the relationship when you need, it will be a bit too late. And as I said, just to keep in your mind, stakeholders are neither customers nor enemies. They are your partners. Now let's look at another one here. The relationship between product manager and the team. Product managers will empower teams to work on problems and will let the team solve that however they see fit. Remember the context I shared with you there. The team will run experiments, will try out things, and will see what drives value. The product managers is automatically accountable for results. But that doesn't mean that the product manager is the only one driving results. Everyone in the team is responsible for driving value. But if you fall prey to the backlog management traps, you end up planning by capacity, micromanage team, and then you don't even know what is the vision. What am I talking about here? If you start the sprint planning by looking at the velocity delivered on the last sprint and asking what is the available capacity and trying to sum the storm points of your tickets in the backlog and see what we can fit, then you are missing the point because then you are planning by capacity. This is one of the versions of a disguised waterfall. That is when Scrum become a water Scrum fall. I did that. It's not fun. I started changing that once. I said, success by the end of this sprint means that. How can we best achieve that? And then the team said, well, we need to look at the story points and see what we can deliver. I said, what if we stop looking at story points? What if we start talking about what we want to see by the end of these 2 weeks? And then we go from there. It changed. It changed collaboration. It changed the focus. The only thing I had to do was, and if things go wrong, it is my fault because I didn't give you enough context. It is my fault because I'm accountable for that. And as I remove this barrier of whose fault it is, the team start taking more risk. Teams start making decisions faster. And we stop having the wrong conversations. The conversation of how many story points can we deliver, it doesn't make sense because we get distracted on the output and not on the outcome. So it is about empowering the teams, not about planning by capacity. And out comes one thing here. Being a product manager means that we need to pick a few fights. And I'm not telling you that you need to be a disruptor, need to be an annoying person. But if you see that anti-patterns are limiting the team, you're going to try out some things. You need to decide which battles to pick and which not to pick, but you are going to pick one at a time to keep the team moving in a different direction. And here I'm not saying that companies are bad. What I'm saying is when you land in a situation where anti-patterns are all over the place, maybe they are there because no one else has helped the company work differently. And that's how they have been doing business. So you have a chance of challenging one or another thing and trying doing things differently. But of course, if you try lecturing people and telling everything they should be doing differently, no one's going to listen to you. But if you try one thing different at a time, you are going to be surprised on how much value you can drive. I always give you one example. If you have output-oriented roadmaps and you always get stuck into delivering features, you can always start by assumptions. What do you assume to happen here? You assume that people will understand how to use it. What if you could test that before you even deliver that? You assume people are going to pay for that. What if you try that out? And then once you have evidence, you can help people see that. And evidence will talk louder than opinion. But if you go in an abstract conversation, it's very unlikely you're going to get support. But backlog managers won't care about that. They will just follow the orders and they will strive to make the team happy, management happy, and everything is fine. No troublemaker. But that will be okay in the short term until the backlog manager gets frustrated as well and nothing happens. So what I like saying is the following. If you complain, nothing happens. But if you take a stand, you're going to have a chance of something better. Of course, this chance requires courage, but sometimes it's just better to, maybe you get a beg for forgiveness, but you don't ask for permission. Do one thing at a time. If you have a genuine intention of helping, that can help people understand and support you. Product managers end up being authentic leaders, and backlog managers will be uninspiring managers. Sometimes we fall prey to this situation, and it's up to us to step back and reflect. When I wrote my book, I was reflecting on my career. I had many weird definitions of product managers. If you would ask me in 2012, I would tell you, what I do, I am the bridge between business and tech. That's how I defined product manager to everyone. Today, I'm a bit embarrassed by saying that. If you would ask me in 2016 or 17, probably I would say, I'm like an orchestra conductor. I go there, I don't touch any instrument, but I ensure that the musicians are making the best possible music. I ensure that everything is aligned, and that's what I do. At least I thought so. And around 2021, 2022, I started changing again. I started saying that a product manager is more like a jazz player. You just start the music and you let the others join and you improvise all together. You define the rhythm and you go and you contribute. And what is the result? The result is something that none of you could do alone. But the result is magnific because you started something that was unimaginable. And you may wonder, okay, I want to take action. You're talking a lot here. Let me give you some actions then. Some things that you can do immediately. Some might be a little bit bold. Some you may say, okay, this I can try out. But I will start with the bold one. Delete your backlog. People freak out when I say this one. The reason I say this one is because the backlog gets so much clutter, so much distractions, that it becomes a burden. It is not a vehicle to drive value anymore. And why should you delete it? Because then you can ask the question, what matters most right now? And then you can start from there. And then you can focus. It's a kind of a reset. This helps quite a lot. If you're afraid of doing this, archive everything that you didn't touch over the last 3 months. I would encourage you to delete, but at least you need to remove distraction. Because many times we ask the question, what should we do? What should we add? And I like asking, what should we remove? Let's talk about more things to remove. When you look at your product, how many features do you have there that nobody's using? And yet you have that in the product. Keep distracting the others from driving value. Look at that. Remove these features. A great product is not the one you have nothing to add, it's the one you have nothing to remove. What about the meeting marathon? If you look at your calendar, what do you see? Do you see a kind of a Tetris where you struggle to find time even to have lunch because someone is always booking that slot? So there are many meetings recurrent nowadays. Things got even worse after pandemic because now we are working in a hybrid format and the possibilities are just endless. When I was in the office, there was a physical limit. There would be a number of meeting rooms, and each meeting room would have a number of chairs. So that means if the meeting room was not available, no meeting would take place. And if the meeting room had 5 chairs, maximum 5 participants. Today, we have unlimited meeting rooms with virtually unlimited seats, meaning more meetings with more people. That doesn't mean you are driving value. So refrain from having recurrent meetings. Think how much they are helping you drive value and meetings you should attend and the ones you should not. Another one I like saying is stop estimating. Estimation tends to go to something we start discussing in circle, like what is the meaning of one story point? Some people will say it's 4 hours. Others will say, no, it's complex. We need to look at it differently. We could go in a theoretical discussion on that. But the most important is asking the question, if we are to invest 1 week in solving this problem, what could we create? How could we solve it? Let's try. Let's make bets. Let's say this problem is worth solving and that we could invest up to 2 weeks on that. What could we achieve on that? And then try it out. So talk about the outcome you want to achieve and investment you are willing to make. It's a different way. And then you think what it would fit there and try it out. And don't try pursuing multiple goals. That's not going to help you. Having multiple goals means having to switch contexts, and that is dangerous. And to help you finalize this for today, I'm going to give you some things. If you want to do product management or creating digital products, you need to understand the fundamentals. There will be a few things that will help you. Product strategy, which is about simplifying decision-making. Product discovery, uncovering what creates value. And product delivery. One helps the other. They are not a waterfall. They relate to each other and they feed back to change it. Strategy is not set in stone. Once you discover some things, you tweak. The phase of your product will tell you how often you have to tweak that. The same goes for delivery. Maybe you start delivering something and you realize that you need to discover because you need to drop the idea. So you align them. And when you have all of these 3 aligned, things get quite smooth. Of course, you can go in depth in each of them, and in the book I elaborated that. If you are curious, you can learn more. But for today, I'm going to give you one journey, which is the discovery journey. And the reason I'm doing this one is because I perceive as one of the most important. A discovery journey needs to have a goal. And the goal is not about saying increase sign-up rate. That would be very easy. You just need to ensure there's a reason for that. Maybe you make it for free, your product, and everyone is going to sign up for that. But the question is, what are the cards you have? Which trade-offs can you make? And what guardrail metrics you need to protect? Once you have clarity on the goal and the cards you have to play the game, you understand your audience, what would be natural for them and not rational. What is their scenario? What are the jobs they execute? And from there, you can uncover the value drivers. Value drivers, it is a reminder that everything we do should result in value for customers and business. You're going to hear different names, opportunities, problems. They are also good names, but sometimes we get distracted with opportunities that drive no value or problems nobody cares. So that's the reason I use the term value drivers. And you always have more to do than capacity, so you need to prioritize. And until now, we are talking about the problem space. Then we move to the solution space, where we start understanding what are we going to create, reinvent the future, ideate on solutions here. And you will have, of course, assumptions. Will customers understand how to use it? Will they choose to buy it? Will you collect value for the business? Can you do it? That's the moment you need to deal with assumptions. And then you use evidence to progress once you confront reality. And this is a journey, meaning that you are the driver, not the passenger. And it's not a waterfall here or a process. As a driver, you decide when to drive forward, backward, left, or right, and how long to stop at each part. Sometimes you are going to skip one or another part, depending on the knowledge you have available. But the key is you make decisions. You are mindful about these aspects. And how can you understand your scenario? When you look at my book, the third part I call as remaining untrapped. And the key thing is about stepping back and looking at your reality. I'm going to give you one check for today, which I call as a product delivery health check. You can look at what happens in your situation. When you talk about implementation, how do you implement things? You can build it right from the beginning, meaning that all tests coverage are done. You don't use technical debt. Everything is paid off. Usability debt is paid off. But then you realize too late that you built something perfect that nobody needs. Or maybe you follow another principle. First build to learn, then to scale. Meaning that in the beginning, you accept making some trade-offs. And if it doesn't work, you trash it. And if it works, you pay the trade-off off. For example, you would use technical debt to accelerate delivery, but then you pay the debt off after. What about results? We talked about this one. So is velocity what matters most, or the outcomes? When was the last time you removed a feature? If you struggle to answer this one, you know what to do. What about failures? Once you fail, which question do you ask? How do we avoid it, or what did we learn from it? What about your product backlog? When you look at that, what do you see there? Is it the Christmas wish list of a kid? Or is it what contributes to objective? Meaning when you look at that, you can say where you're going. So this is an example of what you could do. And you may look at that and say, oh my God, everything is on the left. Don't try changing everything at once. Pick one item at a time, do something about it, and then you come back to this. Maybe after 1 month or after 3 months. You do this in iterations. Choose one, change it, and move on. And I want to end this talk with this. You always have a choice. And I leave that for you. You can bow to the status quo, and whatever it is, you get there. It's a choice. Or you can challenge it. And if you challenge, you have a chance of better tomorrow. So what is yours? If you want to know more about me, you can get the book. That's Untrapping Product Team. As I said, this book is about hope. It's about helping you drive value when everyone is distracting you. There are many stories, and I'm very delighted by all the support I have received. So if you want to know how to untrap your teams, that's the book for you.
Mhm. I agree. Thank you, David. Really appreciate that.